August 6th, 2018.
A new racing community is born.
With that, time
Goes
Magnificent.
This championship marked the beginning. It was all organized between admins and grippers, crafting the championship through a main chat to try to please everyone who was going to race. Since it was the beginning, it was difficult to get participants, so TGM debuted with a championship with only 6 members, number which was a success by that time.
The first lights out of TGM was in the home of the one-make car for this championship, RedBull Ring Short for the RedBull X2014 Junior. An accessible car and track for the first of many races to come in this community. Arroba 1974 on pole position gets an excellent start and tries to escape from the rest of the grid. No chaos into the first corner, only Gugu 2P needing to go a little bit wide after crossing the sausage curb, losing the position to JP VSP Andrade 1. After turn 4, SL Daniel gets a good exit and hunts Arroba, taking the inside line of turn 5 to get to the lead. Meanwhile, the trio at the back got into an intense battle on the main straight, 3 side by side. But JP still takes P3. Even when cracking under pressure by Zephyr 0534, JP only manages to keep the position until turn 5, where Zephyr makes the safe maneuver as SL. JP can't hold his nerves and ends up losing the position to Gugu 2P in the main straight. A lap later in turn 4, it's Gugu's turn to not hold his nerves, losing control and going into the gravel. JP ascends to P4. Turn 1 and sausage curbs being a danger once again, this time for the race leader, SL Daniel. Spinning and losing 3 positions. After this mistake, SL pits to try the undercut, while the pole sitter, Arroba, regains the lead. A lap later, the rest of the grid pits. Strangely, Gugu was the only one with the hard tires, while the rest of the grid was sticking with the super softs. SL's undercut didn't have any effect and the driver came out P4 once again. But surprisingly, SL was catching JP and on lap 10, he was right behind his wheel ring. Arroba crosses the line and is the first ever TGM race winner. Zephyr crosses the line in P2. Meanwhile, the battle for P3 was yet to be decided, and it was getting even more intense for JP. Both JP and SL were sliding in the last 2 corners, but JP closes the podium with an incredible small gap from P4.
Second race in the infield A version of Blue Moon Bay Speedway, and now with a grid of 6 drivers. Batata 1020 doesn't start well and jump starts the lights out. Everything goes clean in the first corners, but the life didn't get easier for Batata and JP, who had some troubles controlling the cars. Same situation for Zephyr on turn 4. Meanwhile, JP leaves the race, making the first DNF in TGM history. The battle for P1 between Arroba and Gugu gets intense on lap 3, same lap where Zephyr spun again in turn 4. The top 4 pits at the end of lap 4. Gugu leaves the pits in front of Aroba, leading the race, while Batata tries to overcut, but complicated strategy since the driver was always sliding. On lap 6, with the blue flags advertisement, Batata spins in front of the race leaders. The top 2 can overtake without any problems, but the P3 driver, SL Daniel, shunts into Batata's bolide. Meanwhile, Aroba takes the lead again and brings the car home to win the second race.
Brands Hatch is the third stage of this championship, a demanding track to challenge all drivers. The lights got out and it was a terrible start for Rehoba, who gets overtaken by Gugu and SL Daniel. Batata in the second race doesn't have an easy life with his lag spikes, which makes him quit before ending the first lap. After a solid performance during lap 1, SL Daniel loses his place to Rehoba after going wide in turn 4, which means bad news for Gugu. Curbs at Brands Hatch may be tricky, and Zephyr proved it with a huge crash at the exit of turn 5. Life for him got even harder after a spin at the exit of turn 1 in the beginning of lap 3. Meanwhile, at turn 6, Gugu gets in the same trouble as Zephyr and goes into the gravel. He comes back onto the road as soon as possible, but Rehoba saw the perfect moment to be sneaky and to literally open a gap for himself at turn 7, taking the lead of the race. By the end of lap 3, Zephyr is the first to make a pit stop, changing from the soft to the medium compound. The top 3 stops on lap 4, keeping the softs, and JP stops on lap 5, changing from the hard to the soft compound. Zephyr has another moment in his last lap of the race, getting blue flags but respecting the track entry. Rehoba brings the car home in first place once again, getting a solid advantage of 11 points to the second place in the championship.
The race before the big one. Lagoma Joy West could be a championship decider. Rehoba only needed to outscore Gugu, SL Daniel and Zephyr by 10 points. The lights go out and Gugu has a good start. At turn 1, Batata hits SL and before turn 2, JP goes to the grass. Rehoba meanwhile secures the P1 until the turn 7. A smooth dive bomb from Gugu through inside the corner steals the lead of the race. Zephyr, after some mistakes in lap 2, loses the P3 for SL. At the end of lap 4, all the grid pits, so no big strategies over there. But surprisingly, Gugu once again comes in front of Rehoba, making the championship leader to fight in those 3 final laps if he wanted to be champion in that race. The battle didn't endure that much. Less than 2 laps until the end of the race, Rehoba throws the reverse card and does a smooth dive bomb to Gugu in turn 7. In the final lap, the turn 7 wasn't that friendly to Gugu, who went to the gravel by exiting the corner. After all, Rehoba crosses the finish line in P1 for the 4th time, making him the first ever champion crowned in TGM. Rehoba 1974, champion of TGM Season 1. Here's the big one, Nürburgring 24 hours layout, the longest permanent racetrack of the world with over 25 kilometers. Despite having a champion, the rest of the grid could still be decided in a one-lap race on this circuit. The lights go out and a terrible start from SL Daniel with a lot of wheel spin. Great start from JP, who jumps from P4 to P2. At turn 2, Gugu is completely smashed into the barrier, throwing the driver to last place. A calm race in the GP layout, but the chaos enters in the Nordschleife. Zephyr touches the grass after the first turn of the big layout and gets under pressure. A mistake, corners later, leads him to a big shunt and to lose the position to Gugu. Meanwhile, near the kilometer 8 of the track, JP and Gugu had a scary moment in one of the trickiest corners of the circuit. SL Daniel takes the moment and reaches P2, overtaking JP. Zephyr at the back of the grid not having an easy life, and JP near P3 and P2 committing some mistakes. Left the battle only between Gugu and SL Daniel. Gugu without fears took the opportunity and overtook SL in one of the fastest sectors of the track, an incredible moment side by side in one of the narrowest roads in racing. Meanwhile, some corners before the carousel, JP shunts his bolide. Gugu gets distant from SL, but entering in the hardest sectors of the track, commits some mistakes by shunting into the barriers and going through the grass, which gave SL an opportunity to come closer. But meanwhile, also SL committed some more mistakes. But with Gugu not surviving under the pressure, the battle for P2 was ignited once again. JP and Zephyr also going through difficulties in some tricky corners. After Gugu gained some terrain, the driver shunted into a barrier once again. SL was close, but a corner later, SL completely lost the control of his bolide and shunted into the barriers as well. JP and Zephyr had also some trouble in these sectors. After all, Arroba was already ending the great straight of the track. Disappeared in the first corners and then appeared again to make his 5th victory of this championship, making him an undefeated champion of TGM.
With all maths done, Arroba was champion with 50 points, 15 points away from the second place Gugu, who ended with 35. SL Daniel fell with 28 points and Zephyr with 22. The top 4 completed all the races. JP appears in 5th with 16 points and a hard championship for Batata, who ended with only 7 points.
History was written, and the first ever championship of this community was done with success. The first step was done here, the first problems were noted, and the following championships were an upcoming evolution of this Season 1. Despite not being one of the most exciting championships, the RedBull X Junior Championship will always be remembered and adored for being the first one.